Chicken Little credibility. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Now, we've all come across them in our lives. I like to call them panic pushers, people with a very limited or even warped perspective. Now, sometimes the motive is nefarious. Sometimes it's greedy. Sometimes the frenzy is so over the top, it's cartoonish.
The sky is falling! The sky is falling! A piece of it just hit me on the head! The sky is falling! Hurry, hurry! Run, everybody! The sky is falling!
And we've heard from a lot of Chicken Littles over the past 4 days.
Another gruesome day on Wall Street. The reason, once again, is President Trump's global trade war.
It's hard to get your head around these numbers.
Billionaire investor fears the nation is on the brink of, quote, economic nuclear winter. Another top investor says it could unleash economic Armageddon.
He is making this turd sandwich, and he's making everybody eat it. Wait till Monday. Yeah. We're going to have a Black Monday?
Okay, this, of course, is absurd. The market was down as much as 1,600 points at one point today. Then others made money off the panic. That always happens. They bought back cheap stocks, and it went up more than 1,200 points, ending down around 350. Now, here's what you need to know tonight. The American economy is very resilient. Our resources are abundant, and our energy supplies are unmatched. Now we have Trump's drill, baby, drill policy. We have this new market dynamic in place. Oil and gas prices are going down. And the key for individuals and businesses, so are borrowing costs. So energy and interest rates. These are immediate tax cuts for hardworking Americans. So yeah, the current market gyrations, I get it. They're jarring to watch and feel. But the downturn is going to be short-lived. So will any pause in consumer spending they're talking about? Meanwhile, the payoff will be massive. President Trump's plan to revive our manufacturing, it should have been done many years ago. I was talking about it on my radio show, I think back in 2001, 2002. What he's doing is courageous. And it's difficult because, look, it's over 40 years. The heartland has gotten poorer and Wall Street has gotten a lot richer. In fact, many of the hedge funders and multinationals have gotten so used to U.S. outsourcing, to milking these unfair trade scenarios, that they've forgotten they're Americans. So sometimes you get the sense that when all the dust settles, and it will settle on the Trump tariffs, that some of those hedge funders, those private equity guys, asset managers, they're going to be upset if China ends up worse off and America ends up better off. So when these large institutions like Goldman, which is heavily invested in China, by the way, start speculating about a recession, when they complain that Trump's rattling investor confidence, you know what I say? Consider the source. How many of them cashed out when the taxpayers were left to foot the bill?
We lose hundreds of billions of dollars a year on trade to China. You hear about all of the people that say, well, deficits, if we have a deficit with the country, or if the country has a big surplus with us, like China has a massive surplus, that they take and they spend on their military. Well, we don't want that. It's the only chance our country will have to reset the table. Because no other president would be willing to do what I'm doing or to even go through it. Now, I don't mind going through it because I see a beautiful picture at the end. But we are making tremendous progress with a lot of countries, and the countries that really took advantage of us are now saying, please negotiate.
Now, the temporary pain in the portfolios of the wealthy, it does not compare to the pain that globalization and bad trade policies inflicted on the American heartland. Thousands of jobs lost turned into millions of jobs lost. So Trump should focus on China then. Don't just do China. Don't slap tariffs on other countries like Cambodia. Well, you know why? Because China, with the trillions they've amassed in trade surpluses, is gobbling up assets and moving their operations around the world, especially in Asia.
They moved here from China a month ago to produce ottomans to export to the United States.
Most of the companies coming here are Chinese.
Yes. And their driving incentive to avoid US tariffs. The Cambodian government says more than half of the factories in Cambodia are Chinese owned.
You get it? That's what's happening. Now, the press knows this. They reported on it. Now, on bringing businesses back to America, rebalancing trade, Trump has been very consistent for decades. But the same cannot be said of the Democrats. Schumer was a big tariff guy. Now he's not. Clinton and Obama believed in cutting government waste. Now they defend it. It makes no logical sense, none of this. Just like their line that Trump's for the billionaires, the oligarchs. Now, I find that very confusing, since today, the billionaires seem very upset.
Jamie Dimon, CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase, says we are likely to see inflationary outcomes. Bill Ackman of the hedge fund Pershing Square says the president is losing the confidence of business leaders around the globe. We are heading for a self-induced economic nuclear winter. Richard Branson of Virgin says this is the moment to own up to a colossal mistake and change course. Otherwise, America will face ruin for years to come. Jay Hatfield of Infrastructure Capital Advisors. This is unambiguously stupid.
Oh, really? Now, do any of these Chicken Littles stop to think past their portfolios? Think to a world where the U.S. can be held hostage by a communist regime with a larger standing army and a burgeoning AI industry? Ever think about that world? So China is now flexing to halt exports of key rare earth materials to the United States, by the way. And maybe all of those individuals who are so worried should remember that China produces around 90% of the world's rare earths, a group of 17 elements, remember, used across the defense, electric vehicle, energy, and electronics industries. The U.S. has only one rare earths mine, and most of its supply comes from China. Now, to think the D.C. elites are the ones responsible for giving China this advantage.
For economic opportunities for America in China, for American businesses and American workers. Without the tariffs and technology transfer requirements and production in China requirements and other requirements which have limited our ability to benefit from their market for too long. So economically, the case is clear.
Yeah, for permanent normal trade relation status with China. The predictions about how great it was going to be, he and Alan Greenspan, the maestro, and most of the D.C. political class had the entire analysis wrong. All their predictions about how China would become freer and friendlier, and the business would have all the access to the markets, and the American middle class and our national security suffered. Now, retaining trade leverage with our own robust manufacturing base and fair trade, it is the only way to counter this challenge. Every U.S. president since Clinton, except Donald Trump, got this wrong. And instead of kicking the can down the road, he's actually cleaning it up. So the Chicken Littles across politics and business trying to wave him off have zero cred. And that's the angle.
Don't be weak, don't be stupid, don't be a panicking. That's what the White House says. What's a panicking? Trump says it's a new party based on weak and stupid people. He says if you're strong, courageous, and patient, greatness will be the result. And he knows how to get results.
How was the golf tournament?
Very good, because I won. It's good to win. You heard I won, right? Did you hear I won?
Yeah.
Just to back it up. Over there, I won.
What's your handicap these days?
Very low. I have a very low handicap.
Not giving an F about the bad headlines, that's Trump's mindset, according to the White House. Golfing during a market meltdown isn't a middle finger to middle America. It's a middle finger to the world. It's just business as usual, while the rest of the world begs for a meeting. Trump's built different. I wouldn't be able to hit a single fairway this weekend after looking at the Dow, but the man got shot, popped up with his fists in the air. He's not going to buckle when the Dow gets a haircut. After every hole, he was on the phone.
I spoke to a lot of leaders, European, Asian, from all over the world. They're dying to make a deal. But I said, we're not going to have deficits with your country. We're not going to do that, because to me, a deficit is a loss. We're going to have surpluses, or we're at worst going to be breaking even.
Every time another president calls, he's got to put another president on hold.
I can tell you that there are 50, 60, maybe almost 70 countries now who have approached us. So it's going to be a busy April, May, maybe into June.
The feeling around the world is I can't be the last one to reach a deal with Trump, because if I'm the last one, then I'm the one who's getting screwed. If you're a CEO or an agent or a dad, you know when someone calls, they need something, they're not just calling to talk.
Virtually every country wants to negotiate. If I didn't do what I did over the last couple of weeks, you wouldn't have anybody wants to negotiate. We would have gone to these countries, you want to talk? And they were, well, we don't want to talk. Now they're coming to us. Now they're offering things to us that we would have never even thought of asking them for, because they're experiencing a lot of hurt. And the hurt is that they've taken advantage of us, and we finally fought back.
Japan, who has a 50% tariff on American products, good luck finding a Chevy truck in Tokyo, called Trump today and said they're ready to strike a deal. Bessent says Japan's at the VIP table. The Prime Minister of Israel came to the White House and said he'll do everything we want.
We will eliminate the trade deficit with the United States. We intend to do it very quickly. We think it's the right thing to do, and we're going to also eliminate trade barriers, a variety of trade barriers that have been put up unnecessarily. And I think Israel can serve as a model for many countries who ought to do the same, Mr. President. We are going to eliminate the tariffs.
Across the pond, Europe says they're ready to drop every single solitary tariff.
We stand ready to negotiate with the United States. Indeed, we have offered 0 for 0 tariffs for industrial goods, as we have successfully done with many other trading partners, because Europe is always ready for a good deal.
Europe was talking tough last week, and now Ursula is begging for mercy. And the world's richest man says Ursula's onto something.
I hope it is agreed that both Europe and the United States should move, ideally, in my view, to a zero tariff situation, effectively creating a free trade zone between Europe and North America. That would be that's what I hope occurs. And also more freedom of people to move between Europe and North America, if they wish. If they wish to work in Europe or wish to work in America, they should be allowed to do so, in my view. So that has certainly been my advice to the president.
Trump says it's not just about zero tariffs. Other countries have tons of excuses why they won't let our products in. Like, oh, your big, beautiful beef has hormones, or your Cadillacs are too brittle.
They put things on that make it impossible for you to sell a car. It's not a money thing. They make it so difficult, the standards and the tests. They drop a bowling ball on the top of your car from 20 feet up in the air, and if there's a little dent, they say, no, I'm sorry, your car doesn't qualify. When the same car from Germany or anything would dent likewise. Unless you can have an army tank, it's going to dent.
Negotiators have to remain patient. They can't be panicking. Maintain leverage and let the other side show some leg.
President Trump, as you know, is better than anyone at giving himself maximum leverage. We outlined the tariffs on April 2nd and then gave the countries several days to think about it. I suggested that the foreign officials keep your cool, they do not escalate, and come to us with your offers on how you're going to drop tariffs, how you're going to drop non-tariff barriers, how you're going to stop your currency manipulation, how you're going to stop the subsidized financing. And at a point, President Trump will be ready to negotiate.
A famous venture capitalist says this is what Trump's doing. He built a big wall around America and says you can't sell here unless you do X, Y, and Z. And he's seeing how people react. He's fielding offers. And when he's ready, he'll bring everybody to the table together and negotiate a deal that puts America first in the New World Order. These types of deals happen once in a lifetime. The last one was in Bretton Woods during World War II, when America dropped all of our tariffs to bail out our allies and create a free trade alliance system to contain communism. And once a new deal is announced, or individual deals, it'll trigger massive rallies. Other countries can either come to the table now or lose big. And so far, China's losing big.
As you know, against my statement, they put a 34% tariff on above what their ridiculous tariffs were already. And I said, if that tariff isn't removed by tomorrow at 12 o'clock, we're putting a 50% tariff on above the tariffs that we put on. We're going to have one shot at this, and no other president's going to do this, what I'm doing. And I'll tell you what, it's an honor to do it because we have been just destroyed, what they've done to our system.
Trump's Treasury Secretary broke the Bank of England. He knows what he's doing. And now he's going to break the Bank of China. This is all about fairness. If you're going to tax our products, we're going to tax yours at the same rate. Those are called reciprocal. And if countries don't play fair, reciprocal tariffs go up Wednesday.
And the tariffs will be reciprocal. We love the word reciprocal. Unless it's in the bedroom. Right, fellas? You want me to do what? Yeah. The guys know what I'm talking about.
President Trump announced a tariff on all goods imported into the U.S., saying that the U.S. has been plundered and raped by other countries, and Trump will not stand for plundering. An economic slowdown from tariffs could be especially hard on China because it's not easy to tell a child they're getting laid off.
And the people you hear complaining about the trade war are foreign countries and American companies who outsource to foreign countries. Trump basically said we have to knock off using slave labor in sweatshops. And Democrats on Wall Street were like, no, my flat screen's going to cost an extra $70. Most American workers say it's about damn time.
It is so unfair what's happening to the American worker. They can't compete when you have that kind of unlevel playing field. We're talking about an opportunity finally to create a lot of millions of American jobs, middle-class jobs, if we could get it fair. If we're fair, the American technology, creativity, work ethic is going to just do extraordinary things. And we're going to create millions of American jobs with this new paradigm. It's wonderful news.
Every time the stock market got rocked, we bailed them out. But Main Street's never gotten a bailout. Main Street's been in pain for 40 years. What's the market been in pain for 4 days?
Is there pain in the market at some point you're unwilling to tolerate this idea of a Trump put? Is there a threshold?
I think your question is so stupid. I mean, I think it's I don't want anything to go down. But sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something. And we have such a horrible, we have been treated so badly by other countries.
It's crying on CNBC are the same ones who were happy to shut down the entire economy for a virus with a 99% survival rate. Kramer, known to be right almost all of the time, said today was going to be Black Monday.
The president doesn't try to reach out and reward these countries and companies that play by the rules in the 1987 scenario, the one where we went down 3 days and then down 22% on Monday, has the most cogency. We will not have to wait out too long, will we? We'll know by Monday.
Today, the NASDAQ closed higher, and the Dow and S&P were down less than 1%. I'm not minimizing turmoil. Trust me, it can be scary. No one wants to lose money in the market, even if it's a paper loss. Hopefully, we'll get it straightened out soon. The White House says, again, don't be a panicking. There's light at the end of the tunnel.
The first rule, particularly for the smaller investors out there, you can't lose money unless you sell. And right now, the smart strategy is not to panic, just stay in, because we are going to have the biggest boom in the stock market we've ever seen under the Trump policies. We will find a bottom in this market quickly. We will hit 50,000 on the Dow easily by the end of this term.
How big of a toll is the bear market taking on Trump? He's more popular now than he was before he launched the trade war. Look at that. He's up 4 points since Liberation Day. And a majority of the country supports tariffing foreign nations who cheat. Globalization created the Rust Belt that Democrats crowed about but never fixed. Then Trump was elected to fix what Democrats couldn't. And he's only been at it for what, less than a week? And Wall Street can't believe he hasn't folded. Trump almost died campaigning. And remember, if he lost, Democrats were going to put him in prison. Stocks dropping doesn't scare him. He feels like he's on a mission to save the nation in his last term, we think. And doing the right thing isn't always easy. And he warned us it wouldn't be easy. But like they say, no pain, no gain.
It'd be nice to serve a nice, easy term, but we have an opportunity to change the fabric of our country. We have an opportunity to reset the table on trade. We lose billions of dollars. It's the only chance our country will have to reset the table, because no other president would be willing to do what I'm doing or to even go through it. Now, I don't mind going through it because I see a beautiful picture at the end.
How many times have they said the sky's falling? He couldn't tear up the Iranian nuke deal, couldn't do the Muslim ban, he couldn't reopen the country during the pandemic. You can't close the border. You can't shut down the Department of Education. And if you move the embassy to Jerusalem, the Mideast is going to blow up. Kaboom. Even when he started the first trade war with China 6 years back, the markets tanked. And CNBC said he'd lose the war. Then what happened? No inflation, and the markets hit records. Hopefully, I mean hopefully, history repeats itself.
And welcome to the special edition of Hannity, the rise of the radical left in America. Tonight for the hour, we will focus on the single most extreme, intolerant, clueless, growing, and hypocritical group in America. That is the radical left. And coming up, we'll hit the streets of New York City, where our very own Joe Concha, he attended one of the many hate-filled anti-Trump, anti-Elon protests all over the country this weekend. And Stephen Miller, he'll be here with more on a big, big win for the Trump administration against judicial activism and judge shopping. And Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk, he will join us after a Turning Point student group was viciously attacked at UC Davis. Also tonight, we'll hear from the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. And last but not least, in other news, Laura Trump will tackle the rise of assassination culture on the left. And we'll bring you a very special moment from fake news, CNN's fake Jake Tapper. But first, we dive right into the depths of what is now the modern, extreme, radical Democratic Party. Remember, in 2024, they ran as the protectors of democracy. But after losing, many on the left, they turned to violence, intimidation. Now we even have outright domestic terrorism, and they remain silent. For weeks, we've watched Tesla owners have been on edge. All across the country, these electric vehicles have been violent targets by people who hate Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Some have been lit on fire, Molotov cocktails, dealerships sprayed with bullets. Countless vehicles have been keyed, slashed, spit on, defiled in the worst ways imaginable. Tesla owners have been assaulted, stalked, threatened, victims of doxing. Tesla dealerships have been firebombed, marked with menacing graffiti, bullets fired into those dealerships. And a former federal bureaucrat was just recently charged for vandalizing Teslas that are new in the Capitol. And Alberta police are investigating after a pregnant woman was seriously injured by a large rock thrown through the windshield of her Tesla. But it's not just attacks on Tesla. The GOP headquarters in New Mexico, that was recently targeted by an arsonist. And over the weekend, a 1,000-person mob of Democratic activists showed up outside border czar Tom Homan's house in a small village in New York. Take a look at your screen. In weekly protests around the country, far-left activists have called for violence against Trump officials, all while dehumanizing Republicans. By the way, where's Liz Cheney and her criticism of insurrection and violence and rioting? Instead of calling for calm, James Carville, he's throwing fuel right on the fire like most Democrats. Take a look.
Do you know what his collaborators with the country is going to feel toward collaborators with this regime? Maybe you need to go in history and see what happened in August of 1944 after Paris was liberated. They didn't take very kindly to the collaborators. No. I'm not saying that these people should be placed in pajamas and have their heads shaved, march down Pennsylvania Avenue and spit on. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that did happen. And I'm saying that these people betrayed the French nation in the same way that I think that these law firms and these giant corporate conglomerates are betraying the United States.
Am I hearing this correctly? Collaborators, comparisons to, let's see, World War II, Nazism? Just sounds a little like that. Now, what happened to the party of, all we're saying is give peace a chance, love, tolerance? But after losing an election, these self-proclaimed defenders of democracy, they are now ready to burn the entire system to the ground, just like they were in the summer of 2020, those mostly peaceful riots, all 574 of them, all while engaging in a nationwide campaign now of fear, intimidation against anyone that might support Donald Trump, and outright domestic terrorism against Tesla, and it's getting worse by the day. On Thursday, a conservative student group from Turning Point USA was violently attacked on the campus of UC Davis. Take a look.
Hey! Wow! Hey, get the cops here! Get the cops!
By the way, where are the cops? Violence, assault, vandalism. We're going to have more. Turning Point's Charlie Kirk will explain everything that happened in a moment. The chancellor of UC Davis called this attack disappointing, embarrassing. How about you kick those kids' ass right out of school? Most Democrats don't seem to mind. Now, think about it. In the past few years, Republican congressmen were targeted, shot during a mass assassination attempt at a ball field in Virginia. Another would-be assassin tried to murder Justice Kavanaugh. Remember, Supreme Court justices doxxed. You have the minority leader in the U.S. Senate on the steps of the Supreme Court threatening those very justices. President Trump survived two would-be assassins during the campaign, came within 1 millimeter of losing his life, and yet the far-left hatred, vitriol, it keeps getting worse and worse while elected Democrats, so-called journalists, they continue to dish out hysteria and fear and work everybody up, and none of them will condemn the violence. They'll barely report on it. Over the weekend, Joe Concha, we gave him a tough assignment. He bravely attended the latest anti-Trump protests. They were all around the country this weekend. This one in New York City. Here's a small taste of what he witnessed. Let's take a look.
What is the goal of the protest today? I'm here to express my concern that we're apparently into a third world war. So,
I kind of hate you.
Okay, hate's a strong word.
And this is do you know the stronger?
You want to obliterate me too?
I wicked hate you.
Oh, wicked hate. Are you from Boston?
Yes.
Fact we can't have it yet. You just stood in front of a fire truck.
Oh, well, for God's sake. What were they trying to do? Control us? Threaten us? What was that?
Maybe they were trying to get to a fire? All the dog whistles are there. It's very clear for anyone with eyes to see. And you know what they say? History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. And I think we're seeing a very, very strong rhyme with Elon Musk and his espousing of fascism. There's some signs here today saying, burn a Tesla, save democracy.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
I think, yeah. I don't think there's any reason we should be putting money into the pockets of someone who does not believe in democracy, who has shown no support for democracy, who has done nothing except sit there on his ass and tweet.
So you did that yourself?
I did.
Excellent. How long did it take you?
An hour.
An hour?
Yeah.
Okay.
I worked that fast.
You're like the Hunter Biden of this protest, just put that together completely. Well done.
Okay, I'll let you have that.
I'll let you have that. And you're probably from Boston, too.
How about those hands-off protests? Cute title, right? Sounds like something written on Joy Behar's lunchbox at work. But it's fun hearing hands off from people whose hands are in your wallet, scratching Teslas and reaching for your kids. And with so many trans women in the crowd, some of those hands were huge. But what an exercise in mass performance art. The message? For the government to keep its hands off Social Security. Of course, no one's touching that. It's about fraud. So the entire event was also a fraud. But hands off is pure progressive branding. Big emotion, zero accuracy. It's like staging a protest to save the whales in Nebraska when we all know whales are in New York. So, what's this really about? It's about having no argument against the thing it's railing against, Doge, which is designed to actually help the people who are protesting. Doge's actual goal? Preventing a full-blown economic collapse. The kind where the U.S. dollar becomes so worthless, I don't even bother to take them out of my G-string after a show. But rather than confront that terrifying reality, the organizers cooked up a fake crisis. They claim Doge is trying to destroy Social Security, which is like accusing the fire department of starting fires by pouring water on them. They're also claiming that Social Security payments will cease if Doge isn't stopped. Please, it's 2025. The checks are digital. So no, grandma won't be eating fancy feasts because Trump took an honest look at waste and abuse. That's a lie. But the most cynical part? The organizers know this. They know that they need to kill Trump's agenda if they're ever going to get their power back. And so they'd rather see the system burn than admit Trump has a point. It's the same group that brought you Russian collusion, democracy's death, Joe's just fine, and the classic 15 days to flatten the curve, which sadly had nothing to do with Peyronie's disease. Of course, if these people told me the Earth is round, I'd check what planet I'm on. Fact is, if we do nothing, Social Security goes broke. The Congressional Budget Office says it's toast in 2 years. That's not a hunch, it's math. But instead of dealing with it, the usual suspects deem it evil because in short term, it helps them. Because if Trump solves this crisis, that's the real threat to their ecosystem of imaginary crisis. And their upside-down world where George Floyd's a hero, the women's bathroom needs urinals, and Tim Walz is the only real man left. What they really want is to scare you into giving them back power. And they can easily find bodies to do it. Why is that? Well, they pay them. And these protests exploit the human desire to find a mission. The mission is false, but it indulges their sense of meaninglessness. But this mission doesn't relieve that anxiety, it just worsens it. The protests come up out of nowhere because a party has groomed millions of people to act based on inner turmoil. It is one thing to try and solve an external problem, since the solution itself would bring relief. But if the problem is you, that's an endless supply of strife, which the Dems exploit. At the beginning, it was class warfare, then identity politics. Now you got both, where grievances are endless. But after every protest, you only feel worse and ready to be exploited again. If the Dems do this correctly, they create an enclosed loop. And once you get on there, there's no getting off. It's an imagined reality and no help to your actual reality because it solves nothing. But there is an unintended benefit to this. It brings curious people face to face with what they could be, which might be the first step in alienating them from the party. Is this who I am? Is this who I identify with? A blue-haired they, them, and a Hamas scarf shouting that Nazis are oppressing they and them? It's no longer just you on the internet. You're now face to face with your alleged allies. There for the grace of God go you. And boy, does it suck. Let's welcome tonight's guest. He's brilliant and British and makes lefties skittish. Author of the new book on democracies and death cults, Douglas Murray. Is that a hot pocket, or are you happy to see me? Chef and restaurant owner Andrew Gruel. This former cheerleader exhausts every lip reader. Co-host without number, Emily Cabano. And despite their loss of bone density, old women love him with intensity. New York Times bestselling author, comedian, and former NBA World Champion. So, Douglas, congratulations on your brand new book. It's right here on democracies and death cults. A lighthearted romp, I hear.
Yes, exactly. It's about the last 18 months of war and therefore perfect for late night comedy.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Let's just open up to page 103. And there I was standing before Gutfeld. He was shirtless. Explaining to me capitalist democracy.
Hey, that's my diary.
All right, sorry. Okay. I always don't want to crap on these protesters because it doesn't persuade them if you just say they're stupid. But there's something underneath this, do you think, that is, like, how are they so willing to be mobilized for something that isn't true?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's because, as you said, there's this resentment underneath it, always. And this activity, it's something to do for these people. If you've been told for the last 15 years something, there's always a cause, you know. One point, you know, we're living in the middle of a climate crisis, then it's got to be, I don't know, a rape crisis, and it's a race crisis, and then since November, they haven't really had a crisis.
They had a crisis.
They had a crisis.
Yes.
And then they've come up with this lame new slogan. But this is what, I mean, you know, most of us look at these people and we think, how on earth do you have so much time free? How come you're not only free during weekdays, as you said, you're free at weekends, you don't have family, you don't have work? And the answer is no.
Yeah.
They don't.
Well, if they have family, the family is relieved that they're out of the house.
Exactly.
Go protest.
They're saying, have you heard about the crisis?
Yeah, God, they loved those days of BLM when you were marching every day. They didn't eat all our food, Andrew, speaking of food. Did you notice how professional all these signs were and how prepared they were? They're not hiding the dark money anymore.
No, they're not hiding it at all, but the signs made no sense. So I actually pulled up a lot of these pictures and zoomed in. It was horrible. It was like, Elon Musk has no tusk. Like, it was the dumbest stuff, right? Like, they came up with them so quickly.
But that's true. He doesn't. He's not an elephant. Finally, a factual sign.
You're right, but he is a marsupial. He has a pouch. So a pouch of money, according to them. The thing is, they're bored, and that's a great point that you bring up. But why are they bored? They're bored because they don't have a North Star. They don't have a moral compass. They don't have a foundation. They're not rooted to anything. And there's probably 5 or 10 leaders at the top of this circus that goes around town every few weeks or every few months that are controlling them. And these are their minions. These are the circus animals. And they listen to them. It is literally a cult. I'm mad at the people who are controlling them. I'm not necessarily mad at the people because they're so lost, and it is incredibly sad. And I agree as well about what are they doing, why on a Saturday? How can you mobilize 12,000 people on a Saturday? If you ask me, are you available next Saturday? I've got 6 baseball games, Little League, the restaurant's probably going to be on fire. Lauren's already angry at me, I can tell. And it's like, because I have a life, because I have community, I have family, I'm rooted in something. These people have nothing to do. And if you look across the expanse of the audience, it's all middle-aged white women, a couple men in there, but they're women too. And what is it? Hands off. You know, hands off what? Hands off my Ovaltine. Hands off my hard candies. Like, these are old, elderly people who have nothing to live for.
Yeah, it's not hands off my body because no one's going there.
Nobody is.
Was that mean, Emily? Andrew does bring up a good point. There seems to be a demographic there. Maybe the older people have more free time. Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, look, we see this every week on Tuesdays. There is definitely a demographic that I think has been writing that sedative for a long time. Look, if energy is neither created nor destroyed, I was thinking about this, that their obsessions either have to remain or be transferred. And these are the same people. I'm sure that the hands-off signs were repurposed from hands off my uterus, right? These are the same protesters that have been finding something always. But the issue here is that there's actually nothing to protest. Someone approached me in the grocery store last week and recognized me and had some questions. And I won't bore you with what he said, but when he said he's afraid for the future, he and his husband, I said, well, what exactly, articulate what you're afraid of and let's talk about it. And he said, democracy. And I said, well, okay. There was zero ability for him to specify exactly or articulate exactly what it was that was threatened in our future currently. So I said, I mean, funny, because liberties infringed and dangerous streets and my dollar going nowhere and listed a whole bunch of things. That happened under the prior administration. In this one, I'm finally free. But these people have always been shackled to a concept that they can't free think, they can't independently verify something or question what they're told. So the delusion syndrome exists. It's been transferred from whatever they've been protesting. But at the end of the day, I'm not sure what's going to happen when suddenly they look around and they say, the streets are safer. My dollar is further. I am happier. What is there to complain about?
You did make a mistake when you were telling the story. You said he and his husband. I just want you to correct that.
No, but it was.
Yeah, sure it was. That doesn't really exist. That's only on TV shows. Tyrus! What did you get out of this? Did you also notice it was it was like almost your fan base?
No, they're not mine. No, hell no. No. You Gutfeld, don't put that on me. Mine are silver foxes.
That is true.
They have retirement. They work for a living. They raise families. They go to bed with their extremely happy husband every night with me. Husbands love me more than silver foxes do because their wife goes to bed happy, they end up lucky. So that is my group. And after a wild night of Gutfeld and Loving, they don't have time to go to protesting in the morning. They're resting their hips, stretching, getting ready for another round of Gutfeld. Having said that, this is the bottom of the gene pool. And just so you know, those people aren't old. Those are the most shot-out 23-year-olds you've ever seen in your life. There's a reason why tigers eat their young, and people don't. There was this rumor that aliens came down and helped primates become more advanced faster than everyone else. They also say that a certain group didn't get the push. There they are. Their sentences don't make sense. They're doing this because they live off checks. They live off us. They live off taxpayers. So they can go, and if they're out there doing that, they don't have to pay attention to how crappy their life is because they choose to be lazy and not in the bed. Oh no, I'm disabled. I'm this, I'm that. There's a million people with the same problems who get their asses up every day or wheel their asses out the house every day and get things done. So no, this is the bottom of the gene pool, and they're going to do it. That doesn't even make sense. Hands off our education, blah, 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 democracy and uterus. Now we have group uteruses.
Yes, uteri.
I mean, that's the front line. That's the top of the class, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, you can't spell uterus without you. Or I. No, you can. There's two U's. Yeah. You can't spell uterus.
But if you're saying hands off uterus, that means you have no idea where the hand goes in the first place.
All right, time to move on. That was scintillating. What next? What's next? Oligarchs. Yay.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.